And we're live. Hello everyone and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host as usual, the Dungeon Master Vibe. We're back for some more Dungeons and Dragons stories. So, last time I was telling you guys a little more about the campaign I'm currently running. Not enough material for that one yet, as only one more session has passed since the last time I told you that story. So today we will be concluding my stories of my time with the Out of the Abyss campaign through the perspective of the last character I played in that setting, which was Redeemer Skamos. So my last character for the campaign was a Tiefling Barbarian, with last name Skamos being part of sort of a long-running kind of line of characters in this actual campaign setting of my brother's. Overall, that background bits aren't particularly important with this one, as all in all, he was just sort of built as your kind of general adventuring type, looking to do, you know, some good and crazy exploration stuff. Because honestly, at this point in the campaign, we've been through multiple characters and really just needed some characters who could, like, reasonably be there and would be helpful to the party. And at this point, we were down tanks again, and really needed some, you know, some heavy hitters kind of support some of the magic casters and such we had. I believe at this point in the campaign, there was me as Barbarian, Draven or Paladin who simply refuses to die, and then I believe we also at this point in time had our Druid, as well as I want to say we had a monk at this time. At this point in time, our party had actually shrunk quite a bit. You know, this was a very long-running campaign, and over time we lost a lot of players, ending it with only the four of us. Plus DM, of course. So this picked up right back at the labyrinth where we had destroyed the maze engine, and both Hans and Hollow had died. So exploring the maze, they encounter a tiefling wandering around in the maze, and that tiefling was my character, Demus Skamos. He had been sent down into the Underdark by the Skamos clan to assist the other guilds in defeating the demon princes and push them back into the abyss. So upon meeting up with the party, he of course accepts and travels with them. Their travels bring them to the location of the items they seek, which are the petrified feathers of some angels that are frozen in stone there. Reaching this cave, we also discovered that we could ask the angels questions, and they would answer us as truthfully as they possibly could, and, well, they know a lot, being celestial beings. Only downside is, at this point in the campaign where we find them, we kind of didn't really have a lot of questions. You know, we knew how to defeat the demons. We knew that we already knew we didn't trust any of the guys we were working with to defeat the demons, other than, you know, each other. So we kind of asked them just some general and very basic questions that honestly weren't even of enough importance for me to entirely recall what we asked them. So retrieving this item, we continue our exploration through the maze, now hunting down the blood of a demon prince, as well as the mushrooms that grow in their tracks. Easy enough to do, as we've already confirmed both that Baphomet is in said dungeon, so we managed to find that blood. Well, no, we didn't find the blood yet. We actually find that soon, though, I believe. As well as we did find the mushrooms that we needed. So, with that in mind, we essentially started to make our way out of the dungeon with the interest of seeing if we run into him on the way out. And though we did run into a demon prince on our way out, it was not the one we were looking for. So during our travels, we, at this point in time, had actually acquired if I recall correctly, it was, I forget the full name of it, but the part of the name is Instant Fortress, as a magical item that looks like a little, you know, just a little stone statue of a small fort. And when placed on the ground and setting its command word, it expands into a full-sized fortress. Well, I say full-sized, it is still, as far as forts go, definitely on the small side. More like a very humble tower that, to be frank, with how many characters and NPCs we had with us, was a bit cramped for sleeping arrangements. But it's how we set up camp. And honestly, about as safe as we could get with the things at our disposal and where we were. So one night, we had that set up. and we hear some rumbling outside. We look, and we see that we are in fact being charged at by some demons. So this, if I recall, this was actually one of the first fights of me playing as this barbarian, and it goes rather well. We defeat the demons, push them off, everything's good. Until the rumbling doesn't stop. And who comes charging around the corner? But not Baphomet, but his long-standing rival, Yinigu, the demon prince of Knolls, who is essentially just this giant, terrifying hyena monster with a flare. So we get into this big old fight with him, and during said fight, my guy actually, while everyone else is trying to get things together to attempt a teleportation out of there, because we can't outrun this dude, so we try to teleport, which unfortunately does mean we're going to abandon this tower, because we were kind of using it as a shield to avoid his attacks, and he is wrecking it. He's actually doing damage to the tower, which is otherwise usually not too susceptible to being hit by things. So at one point, I'm actually basically one-on-oneing Yinigu, and he keeps hitting me, knocking me down. But with how high level we are on the campaign, I have the Barbarian's Unrelenting Rage ability, if I'm recalling my abilities correct. That is, in fact, the one in which, when the Barbarian drops to 0 hit points, they can make a con save. And if they succeed on the save, they instead go to 1 hit point. They get to... the first time this happens in a day, the DC is 10 and goes up by 5 every time it happens. He knocked me down, I get up, hit him, he knocked me down, I get up, I hit him. And this goes back and forth for a good bit, with him getting increasingly frustrated, or perhaps having fun. It's hard to tell. He's a giant hyena monster, he's kind of just cackling the whole time. But it's a really cool fight. Well, just two scary people is hitting the shit out of each other. So we hold them off, and teleportation gets completed, and we bamf on out of there. Later on that night, when we finally do manage to rest, now without the safety of our tower, but, you know, certainly safer, considering we're not being chased around by a hyena monster, my character gets a dream, and I gained a boon from going toe-to-toe with Yinigu like that. So essentially, I get a boon that allows me to, if I recall, it gave me advantage on death saves. Wait, no, that's not what it was. That was a different boon we got later on. The boon I got from this was I think it was like, I think I got like one use of an ability that essentially made it to where I would resist all damage for a while, but I think it was like a one use, so I actually saved it until much later on from here. But yeah, so from there, we travel off to meet up with Vizirin, the guy who is going to undo this whole demon summoning ritual. Speaking of which, last time I said Vizirin was the guy who initially summoned them. That was a mistake. I was corrected by our DM, who told me that I misremembered that. We actually never met the guy who initially summoned them, but he was Vizirin's rival, is who that dude was. And since we never met him, I guess that's why I didn't remember it. And wow, there's some construction outside, and it is annoying. It's making my floor shake. That sucks. Anyways, hope you guys can't hear that. Anyways, so we managed to travel back, and along the way, we meet up with a surprising friend. And who is it? But our favorite NPC at this point, Jimjor. And we discovered a little something about Jimjor. Jimjor is, in fact, not just Jimjor. Jimjor is actually the god of gnomes in disguise, who's just been kind of screwing around this whole time. He's really taken a liking to us, and actually at this point, my character and him have kind of become good friends. Me really enjoying the little bets of his he likes to make with the fights. My guy being a barbarian and being pretty hardy in a fight, really enjoys the kind of putting up those stakes when it comes down to it. So he feels himself to be the gnome god, and that he can't really help us further with this whole demon thing, but does in fact give us his boon, and that boon is what from now on actually gave us advantage on our death saves, which would come in handy for time to come, that's for sure. So flashing forward a bit, because to be frank, I don't quite recall much more happening between this point in the story and really the next real big important thing. And I'm sure I'm skipping around a bunch, so I might be hearing about it from my DM later on. So we meet up with Zirin. He lays out the whole plan for us, how we're gonna summon them right in their city. But we gotta kind of parlay with the matriarchy of the city so that we can set up the ritual. So unfortunately, we gotta go do just that. So we head off into the city once again. Certainly didn't go too well last time, but we have a bit of more sway this time, as we have somewhat of a negotiating relationship with one of the individuals in the city, who is actually, we find out upon a meeting with the matron of the city that he is in fact the guy we were dealing with, not Zirin, but other guy whose name I'm forgetting. I'm very sorry. He's kind of a douche, honestly, this dude. So we meet up with him. He's like captain of the guard. He leads like the armies and shit. And we meet up with what we discovered to be his sister, who's the one in charge of the city. They of course don't like each other, but want to still, put an end to things here. And so we speak with them, and we negotiate, and during our negotiations, we discover that our monk, who is in fact a drow assassin, who was actually betrayed by these very two, though he did not realize that the two people kind of on his straight-up Kill Bill style hit list was in fact this lady and the guy we've been dealing with. So we have a very tense negotiation with them, with him giving very subtle death threats throughout the negotiation, but we come to terms. We will essentially summon them in the lower class portion of the city, leaving the more upper class area unharmed. And so as we leave, we decide, hey, screw all these guys, and we can devise our own plan, which is essentially we're going to kind of split up our group, us and a few of the NPCs, going to what is going to be our fake summoning. I mean, our true summoning situation, which we decided we would instead summon them within the main portion of the city, where all the upper class shitty people are. And meanwhile, a bunch of our NPCs will go set up at the fake summoning site. Meanwhile, we leave behind even more of our NPCs at Zirin's tower to help defend. So we now have this kind of threefold plan, and I now recall, wow, we really did have a lot of NPCs helping us at this point. So we have three groups. We have our group guarding Zirin's tower. Their objective is to guard the tower, as well as they have the secret objective of, once the ritual is stopped, they are to go and steal the summoning book from Zirin, and if possible, kill him. Because he's a bad dude, and he plans on keeping the book to do probably some more bad things later. Group 2 consists of our NPCs at the fake summoning site. They are with the guard captain of the drow of the city, who is the guy who is brother of the matriarchy, as well as he actually wants us to kill her, so as part of the power struggle, but we didn't really care anything about that, so we didn't act on that too much. So he's with them. Their job is to deceive him in this fake summoning, while we set up in a tower out in the outskirts of the site of our true summoning site, where we need. Now then, this is where the plan kind of went a bit awry. So during this campaign, we had so many NPCs, and there were just so many other plot threads within Out of the Abyss that we really DM really wanted to hit them all, but we certainly couldn't as just the main party. I mean, it's a big place. There's a lot going on. So things we did rather frequently, and I mentioned this before with the Nazgul episode, is we would have these sessions, or parts of sessions, where we would play as some modified versions of the NPCs through kind of what they're doing. And that's what happened in this. We played as all three of the groups. So first off was group 2, the ones at the fake summoning site. So we're putting on this whole charade, trying to fake them out. But they see right through the deception and are wondering, hey, so where's the main group, You guys are kind of screwing us over here, aren't you? And they figure that out real quick, and blades get drawn. Big fight happens, and once you know it, he's a much heavier hitter than we were expecting. And he actually takes out the entire group. capturing a few of them. Meanwhile, back at our little hidey hole at the fortress, the old building on the outskirts of our true summoning site, ritual was well underway and will soon be finished. When, once you know it, our dude appears with a hostage in tow. They are demanding that we have to turn them over, and in exchange for their lives. But we kind of see right through the trap and figure out right away. Like, the NPC they took captive, can't remember which one it was, but the way, all the pleading and how set they are on, oh man, you gotta help us out, really just was out of character for them. We figured out right away it was one of their dudes in disguise, and since they had none of our people actually physically there and in immediate danger, we said, screw you, let's go ahead and tie up this loose end. Blades get drawn, we get into a big old fight, and we kill the shit out of that dude. Well, actually, no. We almost killed the shit out of him, and I believe he actually managed to run away, because right at the end of the fight, getting ready to strike down the final blow, I believe, the ritual was completed, and the demon princes are summoned. So, they are summoned, being the way they are, they start butchering each other. There are buildings crumbling, there's dust everywhere, we can barely see what's going on, and as the dust settles, we see who our final adversary is. Now, here's a fun little bit with this Out of the Abyss campaign, is it does in fact give you stats for every one of these demon princes. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. You know what? I'll get back to it, because I'm a bit far into this bit here now. Actually, yeah, I can't remember. In fact, you know what? Yeah, I'll look back to it. So dust settles, and the way this campaign's set up is really the DM can choose any one of them to be kind of the final adversary at this point in the campaign. He chose, of course, for kind of the big one. Really, the one that kind of seems like the big bad for this campaign is Demogorgon, though it does give you plenty of reason for one of the other ones to be it. In our case, it was Demogorgon. So last one standing is Demogorgon. And so, fight ensues. I use my boon, gaining resistance to all the physical attacks he's doing. I'm raging. We have this big old fight. It's tense, especially since our party is significantly smaller than it was when we started the campaign. But we are pretty high level at this point, and we managed to strike him down with, as we do, he and buildings collapse, and almost all of us are actually knocked unconscious, with one person who is still standing not being able to see through all the dust. So it's kind of a race against the clock as we're making death saves, and he's blindly rooting through the dust and ash trying to find us. As luck would have it, none of us die, and we succeed on our saves, get up, and the threat is seemingly killed. Now then, one thing I did forget to mention, and I'm sorry for the kind of break in proper flow here, but I realized I did actually skip over something rather big. Before this, we actually, and I might be mistaken, but this might have been back when I was playing as one of my other characters. I'm a bit hazy on the details, if I'm to be honest. It might have been back when I was playing Hollow, actually, and I might have actually talked about it then, but we did actually also killed Ublex, the Demon Prince of Slimes, as well as Zuctamoy, Demon Prince of Fungus and Rot. They were back at Everlight Grove, both trying to devour or become one with, or otherwise do bad stuff with. Basically, this giant, massive fungus that's essentially the largest sentient being in the material plane. So we go there to put a stop to that, because if they eat that, they're going to eat like the whole world. And we kill them. That one was also a pretty interesting fight, but honestly, I don't quite remember enough about it to tell you much of it. I can't even remember who I was playing with at that time. But so actually, we were actually already 3 of the demon princes down at this point before we even reached this point in the campaign. So we were actually pretty good. And we just killed Demogorgon, and with that, all the demon princes are defeated and banished back to the abyss. But that is not where the story ends. As a matter of fact, the bulk of my time playing as a Redeemer takes place after the main campaign here. So with Out of the Abyss, it actually gives you plenty of material to work with after the campaign is actually concluded. Plenty of plot points in which you can actually continue the story a bit further, so long as the DM kind of manages to work together the story himself. And boy, did he. So, that brings us to what was going on with the first group, who is guarding Vizieren's tower, and are supposed to be stealing his book right about this time. So, meanwhile, back at the tower, with the summoning going on, and some other large demons actually assault Vizieren's tower as well, with these NPCs guarding the exterior. They managed to fend off these demons, including a Balor, which, by the way, one of my favorite monsters in the game, and very difficult to fight. Needless to say, we lost a couple dudes in the fight, and those who remained were barely standing. Both him defeated and us barely standing, they figured, hey, if we're gonna do this thing, it got to be now, because we're not gonna get another shot. And they assault his tower. Unfortunately, wizards tend to make their towers rather defensible. And on the way up, majority of us are actually struck down by his traps. Petrified, killed outright, sucked into black holes. Only managing to reach the top of almost the top of his tower at one point, only to be struck down by his death slad servant. So, almost the entire group is dead, save for those who got petrified. They were petrified. And Vizieren teleports away along with his tower. Fast forward a bit more. Our party returns to this group to see how their missions go, and we of course find that it did not go well. We managed to unpetrify the survivors, and they explain how terribly the plan kind of went on their end. So, with this, it would seem to us we've got one more loose end to tie up, and that is Vizieren. So, using everything at our disposal now, it's actually not too difficult for us to find where he's hidden himself, and we set out to put it into Vizieren and the book. So we head out and find his tower. It's just like with NPCs. We have to traverse our way through the myriad traps he has available, including a particularly frustrating floor where there are numerous doors surrounding the room, and each door either A, leads to a trap, or B, leads to another door, and it's just this weird puzzle of finding the right sequence of doors to actually proceed. I'll admit, I let this one get me a little more frustrated than I should have, and might have been a bit, a little bit shitty at that particular session, I have to admit. I believe we actually spent, I think 2 whole sessions in this tower, if I recall. Well, at least session, getting there, and doing part of it, and then concluding it in the next session. So we finally managed to make our way. So after proceeding our way through these difficult traps, we get up to the top of his tower. And we find that, well, I guess, I say top of his tower. This fight actually took place over 2 floors of the tower, the top 2 floors. Between us, his death slad minion, and he himself. We charge on up. Part of the group is trying to defeat the Death Slad. I'm chasing after Vizieren, as I figure he's kind of the biggest threat. Should not have counted that Death Slad short, because he's pretty a big threat even on his own, even with how high level we were at this point. We got our way up there, and I managed to cut him off in his area. I am like almost dead at this point, and basically surviving through rages, and through Barbarian Rage and my Unrelenting Rage ability. He's turning invisible, hitting me, running away. I'm just standing there having to prepare actions to just hit him in that split moment where he becomes visible. And in a very tense exchange, he hits me, almost takes me down. I succeed on my save, survive, take my swing, and I finish him. Well, actually, no. What did happen, because I recall, is this place was filled with Vizizas. The material I mentioned before where when you cast magic in it, there was a chance of some random crazy shit happening. And in the most poetic way, he was undone by one of his own spells. As he attempts to cast a spell to stun, stun and petrify. And what he rolls on the table reverses it back on himself, and he fails his save and is petrified by his own magic. In response to this, I stride on up to him, grab him, and the primary way up this tower, the way where you don't have to do all the traps is there's like this shaft right in the middle that you can float up through with magic. He of course shut that off for us, so it's going to turn off. So I grab him, go to that shaft, and I chuck him straight down it. And he falls to his death like freaking Emperor Palpatine. And honestly, what was one of the best villain deaths in our campaigns, to be frank. It was a great scene. I'm sorry if I'm not giving it justice. It's been a while since it happened, but it was pretty sweet. So with this, Vizion is defeated. We obtain the book, and we destroy that bitch. And so, we make our way out of Underdark for what we believe is going to be a big old celebration, as we've defeated the big bad. Everything's good. Except it's not. Campaign is not over. You see, there's a lot of plot hooks that the game sets up for you that you can actually continue the campaign after the book's conclusion. The hook that he chose was the one that one of the demon princes manages to escape the summoning ritual and is still alive and at large, escaping the Underdark and heading off to another city. In this particular case, it was to the city of Waterdeep that the demon prince fled, and the demon prince who got away was what's his name again? Oh, I'm drawing a blank. What was his name? It was the demon prince of like lust and all that stuff. Jeez, what's wrong with me? What was his name? Which one was it? It was Grizit. Yes, it was Grizit. Yeah. Sorry. So Grizit managed to escape it, and he makes his way, and he manages to reach the city of Waterdeep, which in a particular campaign setting is a little different, or maybe it's not. I've actually never played in Waterdeep in any sort of official campaign, or I guess official published campaign setting, I mean. And in our version of it, it is sort of a city of kind of crime and villainy, with all the districts being ruled by a different crime boss. Grizit goes there and sets up shop and having just a grand old time, reveling in the utter chaos and debauchery that he sets to take place in it. We discover this when, in the midst of our celebration with the dwarves in the city above the Underdark, we are attacked by demons, which we thought we were done with. So we're attacked by these demons. We fend them off, and in the midst of it, the dwarf's king is kidnapped, along with some of our other NPC friends, including Draven's girlfriend, who we kind of went through a lot to rescue over the course of this campaign. Not to say she's not a good fighter herself, but, we're stronger because we're the player characters and they're NPCs. At least at this point in campaign anyways, we're stronger than them. And so we discover, as we are basically told by Grizit himself, because he's, monarchical evil and likes to taunt us, where to find him, and that, he's in charge now. We, of course, take offense to this, and we set off for Waterdeep. So, along the way, we encounter a few interesting little fights, including a group of hobgoblins riding on a giant war elephant, as well as we meet up one of the first of Grizit's sort of big bads that he has employed. A big old fat cloud giant with a giant gourd that can swallow people. I unfortunately am swallowed by the giant gourd, and so get to do nothing in this fight, but everyone else manages to handle it just fine and kick his ass. We discovered that he was sort of his general of gluttony. And we discovered that we got a bit of a 7 deadly sins theme thing going on, as he has a bunch of big bads, each of them representing a different sin. So we managed to get into the city, and boy is it a shithole, with people just killing each other left and right and all sorts of debauchery taking place. We discover where Gazit is in fact hiding and set about dismantling his operations by killing off his little general people. Along the way, we discover that another one of his generals, the one representing List, is in fact Paladin Draven's vampire mother, who is an evil bitch. We encounter her once outside of his palace. However, she proves to be a little much for us at the time, as she is accompanied by her entourage, and between her ability, a magic item of hers, which makes her able to resist radiant damage and sunlight, we are forced to kind of fall back from that fight as she escapes. Along the way, we also meet up with his enemy representing Greed, a Ifrit by the name of Midas, with the ability to, you guessed it, turn you to gold if he touches you. We actually met him initially on our journey, though, as we came across a phoenix egg. One that I kept thinking that I could get a pet phoenix, but it kept hatching and kept trying to kill us, so I had to turn it loose. We went to the fire plane to drop it off in a little side adventure we had. And that's where we met Midas, who tricked us, saying that, oh, in exchange for the phoenix, I'll give you a wish. Turns out he didn't have any wishes for us. He just tried to kill us. So we tried to kill him, but he got away. And we decided to just kind of leave the egg there to, do phoenix things in the fire plane. Seemed like he would like it. So, during our journeys through Waterdeep, trying to find some leads on how to defeat him, we encounter Midas again. And during our fight with him, he actually manages to turn our druid to gold, grabs her, and teleports away. Because unfortunately, Grazit's taken a particular interest in her, and so she is kidnapped, and we are now down our druid. So now we have to save our druid, Draven's girlfriend, and the dwarf king. Have to save all 3 of them now. We meet up with the druid's replacement, a paladin. Wait, or were they a cleric? I can't remember if they were paladin and cleric. I think they might have been cleric. I'm going to say cleric. They were cleric, and I think they were grave domain, because we met them in a graveyard, so I'm going to guess grave domain. So we meet up with them, and they agree to help us in defeating Grazit. So we go and we enter his palace, where all the rest of his dudes are kind of held up. At this point, the armies of the, actual kings and such of the land have kind of arrived at Waterdeep and are kind of holding down the fort outside as they try to get a handle of things while we try to finish the fight. Entering his palace, the place is big, and we set about exploring it. Along the way, in defeating his generals, rescuing prisoners, and finding all sorts of strange magical traps and treasures. During this point, my guy does in fact gain some points of insanity, courtesy of Grazit, and is now completely obsessed with the captured druid. Luckily we get this fixed later on, but luckily it doesn't really impose too much, as it does in fact leave us, with the same goal of rescuing them. Along the way, we managed to defeat each of his sins, each one in having their own host of interesting mechanics, such as Midas having to avoid his gold touch as we fight him, defeat him, take his badass great sword of fire, which I begin using because I'm barbarian. I use a lot of two-handed weapons, and then as well as we managed to actually rescue the king before this. He is not Captain Grazit's main sort of throne area, as he was a bit lower priority for him. We defeat Draven's mother, as well as, if I'm to be honest, I don't quite recall who the other sins were. I feel like we had less trouble with them, so I don't remember them quite as well. Kind of our final approach to the throne room is bordered by a sphere of annihilation, which actually, I now recall, is in fact controlled by one of his sins, Sin of Sloth, I believe, who is a magic caster. I can't remember what they were, but they were a magic caster. We killed them. Sphere is still there, so it's kind of blocking the hallway, so we kind of got to jump over that, and which is very dangerous and difficult to do. If I recall, someone actually died jumping over it. Not a player, but one of the NPCs, I think, died trying to get over it. Very unfortunate. And as we proceed through his throne room, we discover that it is a fake throne room. And at the edge of it is a portal that takes us to his true throne room in his own plane. So we enter his little pocket dimension. And inside, we encounter our final adversary between us and him, Sin of Wrath, who is in fact a Death Knight. And so we get into this big old fight. This Death Knight's given us trouble before. As a matter of fact, we've encountered this Death Knight, actually technically before this campaign, as it is actually a previous player character who had become this Death Knight at the conclusion of a previous campaign that our DM foreshadowed this actual event in, where Grizzy showed up, offered him a deal at the conclusion of a campaign we actually had in Waterdeep. It was a big reveal, and boy, were we surprised. We thought it would come up, but it kept not coming up, so we thought, oh, maybe he forgot about it. But nope, he didn't forget. He was biding his time. So we enter this fight, and we free him, redeeming the soul of the paladin trapped within the form of this Death Knight. At which point we discover who he is, so it's a cool reveal for us, the players. Unfortunately, none of our characters had any clue who this dude was, so kind of the bigger in-game reveal kind of fell on deaf ears, though we felt like we did something good. Players were kind of losing our shit. So with him defeated, all that remains is Grizzy himself. Enter his throne room. Big open room. You know, you're staying in a Dark Souls kind of boss room. Big open room. You know, you got your sort of Bane set piece being his big old throne. He teleports around the room, hacking and slashing with his poison blade. Charming us left and right. We just get into a big old fight with him, and once you know it, he's not fighting alone. He has summons. He summons other lesser demons to assist him. At this point in the campaign, we have in fact actually reached level 20, so you know it's end game. This is as end game as it gets. Fighting a demon lord at level 20 in his own demi-plane. So we battle. It's a long and hard fight. Right, and in a final moment, I managed to strike him down, stab him with my halberd, chuck him up into the air, and as he falls back down, slice him in half with the flaming greatsword we took from Midas. With Grizzy dead, his soul is banished back to the abyss. Yes. Between our cleric and paladin, they managed to free those captured by him, including our druid, who was frozen in gold. And courtesy of said druid's abilities, she is able to actually cure us of the madness we had incurred along the journey. So with that, our characters are finally free of the scourge of the demons, though certainly a bit perhaps PTSD scored. But at this point, we all go our separate ways. Druid returns to the grove. Unfortunately, the cleric actually died at the conclusion of this fight, struck down by Grizzy. Which was not like, it wasn't scripted or nothing. It might seem that way because, oh, cleric died just as we saved the druid. How convenient. Not convenient. In the middle of the fight, Grizzy killed the cleric right before we managed to land the final blow. It was actually rather sad. But we didn't have a lot of time with the cleric, so it wasn't too heartbreaking. But still, losing a character right at the end kind of sucks. Yeah, we all go separate ways. Draven, alongside his grill, traveled back to his family's home to kind of finish the score with them once and for all, and conclude his paladin oath of redeeming his family name. The druid returns to the grove in the research edge, always acting stalwart against the forces of evil, just as they did against the demons. And my own character, Redeemer, returns to the Schemer's clan, and now as an appointed knight, further gaining the clan renown as protectors and bodyguards within this setting. So all of us now all of our characters had gained quite a bit of renown, level 20, and are recognized as essentially some of the strongest individuals in the land. And this threat is over. And so that was the conclusion, or rather scuffed sort of summary of the conclusion of the Out of the Abyss campaign. I'll admit this one felt a bit more scuffed than some of the others. It's just, when you run such a long campaign, and you're not really the note keeper of the group, you tend to forget things. You know, it's like, this campaign lasted us about over a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, I feel like. Some of us were still in college when it started, and now most of us are out of college at this point in time. But it was a lot of fun. It was one of the longest standing campaigns we had, and certainly the longest lived character we have seen in our Paladin Draven, who survived that entire long and deadly campaign. It was unfortunately the end of that particular player being able to actually join us. He got rather busy with other stuff, and now isn't quite able to join us for our regular sessions. But the rest of the group, we still meet up on the regular. It's these same people who now play in the campaign I am running, as well as we still meet up for my brother's campaigns as well. We're currently actually in the campaign my brother is running. We are now running one of the new adventures, Descent into Avernus. Whew, and let me tell you, if I thought Out of the Abyss was rough, this one is no different. Jeez, we were trying to get out of the Abyss then, and now we're stuck in hell with this one. And let me tell you, it's like someone took Doom and Mad Max and made just the most glorious love child you could have possibly seen. That was a very weird analogy, and I'm sorry for it, but you know, Mad Max meets Doom. That's what Descent into Avernus is. Let me tell you. Yeah. I'll probably give you guys some stories about that one as well, because it's rather interesting, and it's actually my first time seeing Baldur's Gate as well. I know Baldur's Gate's a rather important place in D&D lore. It seems like, with even those new video games that came out taking place in Baldur's Gate, and that's actually where Descent into Avernus begins, is in the city of Baldur's Gate. But, of course, that's a story for another time, as we kind of reached conclusion of what was today's story. Yeah, Redeemer was a lot more fun than I thought. This was actually my first time playing a Barbarian. All in all, a Barbarian, I have to say, is a rather, definitely on the surface, simple class, but it is kind of important how you play him, because you are definitely, like, one of the tankiest of tank classes. Like, not just in... Like, AC, not always the highest, as most of their armor comes from unarmored defense, which they get, similar to the monk. But they have the highest hit points in the game, as far as player classes go, as well as access to some of the strongest weapons from the get-go, as well as the highest number of resistances just from class abilities. They are as tanky as it gets in the game, short of playing a paladin with heavy armor, and a couple of feats to kind of further boost that. You further do that, you take a step further by doing something like I did and playing a tiefling, who gains an additional resistance, that being fire resistance. And then there's no shortage of ways to make that Barbarian even tankier. Barbarian is the tankiest tank you've ever seen, and a heavy hitter too. Not so much the defensive class, so much more as the offensive. Though in this particular case, I was playing actually the Ancestral Guardian Barbarian, who is actually a much more defensive and reaction-based Barbarian than most of the other ones. Gaining abilities that allow you to actually shield your allies and resist damage even further through your Spirit Guardian abilities. With that, I put together a rather good tank, I'd say. Was a lot of fun to play, and personally, I like that I had a lot of reactions, because honestly, reaction builds are kind of one of my favorites in Dungeons & Dragons. Having access to a lot of like reaction type abilities, I find it to be a lot of fun and adds a lot more dynamic to combat as turns and actions get interrupted by other players' abilities. Adds a lot more strategy to fights, even when the fight consists of, more tanky characters just kind of slugging it out. But yeah, so if you're if you want to play a martial class and are kind of newer to the game, I actually do recommend trying out the Barbarian. Barbarian is very easy one to pick up, especially if you just go off of one of the player handbook subclasses, and even the ones introduced in some of the later supplement books, not too difficult to get the hang of. But yeah, other than my little plug for Barbarians there, I think that's going to do it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed my little story. Next time I will be, I don't know, I'm not sure. I have, there's plenty of other campaigns I've been in I could tell you about, so I'll just have to choose one. Maybe I can tell you a little bit about what's happened in Descent into Venice, or maybe by then I'll have some more stuff to talk about in the campaign I've been running. And then we got some older campaigns I can talk about as well as plenty of other characters. But for now, let's go do it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you had fun. No, I did. And I wish you all a good day and safe travels. Bye.